Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Songwriting Simplified with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk. I hope everybody is doing well and has had a fantastic first half of your week. We are rapidly heading towards the beginning of February, which means we are over halfway through the first quarter of the year, and that's crazy. Which means we're edging closer and closer towards spring, which means we're then edging closer and closer towards the summer, and then we will slide into Christmas again. So, hope everybody is doing well. I'm kind of, hanging in there, holding on. It's been a tough time. Those of you that don't know, on January 9th, my dad died. And I was there when he died, and I've been trying to deal with grief and everything else that goes with that, and also trying to deal with his personal effects and his estate and everything else, because I am the sole beneficiary, and I am also the executor of the will as well. So I'm trying to do basically three people's jobs. Plus my own day job, plus session work and writing arrangements for big bands and stuff that people keep on asking me to do, which is great. It's work and it pays the bills and it's good. I like doing it, but it's a lot that I'm taking on at the moment. So yeah, it's kind of a little bit tough. But I do have some news on a couple of things. And the first thing is, in February, the second week, I think it will be the 16th of February is going to be my dad's funeral. So I'm going to have to take a long road trip back down to England for that. And whilst I'm there, I'm going to kind of, try and get his house all tidied up and get ready to put that on the market and get that sold. And so when I come back that week, I'll be coming back on the Tuesday, but I won't be doing a show on Wednesday. I'm sure you'll all understand. So that will be the Wednesday, the 18th of February. There won't be a show that week, just so you know, for Wednesday. And we'll see about having a show on the Sunday. I would like to do one, but we'll see how I feel kind of after the funeral and all of that. So, please bear with me whilst my scheduling for videos and for streaming is kind of a little bit chaotic, a little bit all over the place. Like I said, I've still got a bunch of Studio Pro 8 videos, which I haven't finished editing. So those are waiting to be finished, and then once I've finished editing those, I'm going to get those up onto the channel. They should have been done by now already. So I had planned to have like a whole series of videos that were ready to go live on launch day. But obviously I wasn't here for launch day, sadly. I was down in England. But at least the one video that I did have, which was the overview, which gave you a look at, 5 or 6 of the new features that I personally think are the ones I like the most. That video was already shot, edited, and scheduled. I'm so glad I scheduled it, because I wasn't even in Scotland when that video went live. So I'm so glad I did that. So that video went live pretty much at the same time as the launch took place. So and that's already had almost 10,000 views in basically just over a week, nearly 2 weeks. It's been pretty amazing, that video. But it generated so many comments. I think it's one of the most commented on videos that I've ever made. And that's saying something. And, this release was obviously, quite compelling, shall we say, for a bunch of reasons. Some of it, very positively compelling, as in there's lots of wonderful new features, and the user interface has had a nice, clean, tidy up, and it's been really well organized. I like the way it's been organized. It's good. I like it a lot, what we've done. But, there's a lot of people that seem to have an adverse reaction to that word up there. I'm looking at the wrong one. It should be this one here. Ender. A lot of people seem to be having a bit of an adverse reaction to that word there. To me, doesn't bother me, and I think I've said that already. It doesn't bother me too terribly much because I'm a Fender bass player. I've played Fender basses for about 40 years, and so the fact that we now have a Fender branded DAW, well, it's great for me. I know there's a lot of you out there that are not guitar players or bass players, you're keyboard players or you're trumpet players. Well, I'm a keyboard player, I'm a trumpet player, I'm a saxophone player, but really still, even with all of that said, it doesn't really bother me too terribly much. It does exactly what it has always done and will always continue to do, and that's what matters to me. Anyway, let's move away from the subject of the Fender branding, because I think that has now been done to death. I think everybody has had their say on that, and I'm very glad that everybody has felt at liberty to have their say on it. As Keith says here, Fender's new Voldemort. Yeah, maybe, or Sauron, and maybe that's another way you could look at it. Yeah, I'm fine with it. I kind of always was. I totally see why, when it comes to the actual product name, they took the word one out of there. I kind of understand why they did that. And a lot of people are just like, well, why did they take that out? Why couldn't they just keep it as Studio One Pro? And still have the Fender branding on it, but, just call it Studio One Pro. It's like, we've been calling it Studio One for 16 years. So, here's the reason why it was called Studio One in the first place. It was called Studio One. The one aspect of it was that it is the all-in-one DAW. Basically, recording, mixing, songwriting, recording, mixing, and mastering all in one application. So, Studio One. That's why it was called that. So that, it describes and encapsulates the product really, really well. And it's a good name. However, I can see why Fender decided that they weren't going to keep the one in there. And that's because as we went from version 1 of Studio One to version 2 of Studio One, we now had two numbers next to each other in a brand name. And that's generally a branding no-no. You don't do that. It's generally not a good idea to have two numbers at the end of a product name. So Studio One 2, Studio One 3, Studio One 4, and so on and so forth. But we all kind of got used to it. And so as time has gone on, we kind of got used to the fact that there were two numbers next to each other in a product name. And so we just learned to live with it. And, Studio One 7, Studio One 6, Studio One 5, and so on and so forth. But I can see why Fender coming in from kind of the outside, so to speak. Not that they're complete foreigners, because they're not really. They spend a lot of time getting to know us. We spent a lot of time getting to know them before this merger happened. And so it was important, if we were going to merge and become one company, which is what's basically happening, that, that Fender had to be the right person to merge with. It's like, a marriage. You want to make sure that you've got the right person that you're going to be with before you make that commitment to become one, to have a union. And so, so all of that's important. But I can totally see why they took that one out. I guess maybe they didn't really understand why it was there. Whereas, if you understand the history of Studio One, you'd understand why it was called Studio One. However, I think in 16 years, everybody knows what Studio One does. That you can record, you can write your song, which is what this show is all about. We can record, we can mix, we can master, we can perform since Studio One 5. So you can do all those 5 things in one application. And so I think we kind of know what that's all about. Kind of makes sense. So I from that point of view, because we've known that that's what it does for 16 years, I don't have a problem with the word one being taken out, especially as we go forward into the future with, whatever's coming next. Maybe actually this is a good thing and makes sense. So Studio Pro 8, I like that. It's actually easier to say, actually, without having, the 2 numbers next to each other. Studio Pro 8, Studio Pro 9, Studio Pro 10. Yeah, I like that. So really, the branding, the name, the change of the product name doesn't really bother me too terribly much. Actually, I think a lot of it makes sense, especially, after you've had some time to sit with it. And, obviously, I've had more time to sit with it than you folks have because, I've known about this for a very long time. I've known about this for over a year. So I've had like almost a whole year, in fact, just over a whole year to sit with this and get used to it. Whereas you guys haven't really. You've only had a couple of weeks. But hopefully as time goes on, as we move forward, and now that we've got the first maintenance release out, which was put out yesterday, fixes an awful lot of things that were uncovered with the initial release. And, there will be more maintenance releases to come that will fix more other stuff that pops up. Especially as we start adding new features, which, obviously is going to be the next thing that comes is new features as well as maintenance and fixing bugs and things that pop up when we add new features. So yeah, there's a lot to come. And it's very, very exciting. Trust me, it is very, very exciting. What is coming in the Studio Pro 8 lifecycle. Very exciting. So if you are somebody that has had a long history with Studio One, really, you want to stick around. Don't be put off by the branding change. Don't be put off by that. Stick around, because what is actually going to be added to this product is amazeballs. Totally. And obviously I can't give anything away, so I'm not going to. All right, so now that I've got that out of the way, because I wanted to kind of follow on a little bit from what I talked about on Sunday about that, especially for those that, they don't make the Sunday show, but they do make the Wednesday show. I wanted to make sure everyone was covered. So Billy Morgan first in the door, followed by Brett, who is just body checking that like button. Every good hockey player likes a good body check. I certainly do when I'm watching an ice hockey game. There's nothing quite like a good body check. So yes, please do body check that like button. Smash the living crap out of it. Would be very helpful if you did that. Thank you very much. I would appreciate it. There's 14 people here, which is nice. We did kind of pop over to 16. But we're kind of back to more kind of regular audience sizes now, which is fine. It was great having the 40, 50 or so people on the live stream earlier in the week, last week. But this is fine. 15 people is just fine. I'm happy with it. We got Tony Stringer here. We got Daryl Harrison. We got Kyle. We've got Edgar. Hello, Edgar. Long time no see, my friend. And we've got Dwayne here as well. We got Keith. We've got Don Oliver. We've got JW. And we got Paul Morgan. And Zazu Matt is here too. And Stevie Wilson. Awesome. All right, so we're talking songwriting. And we're talking songwriting in Studio Pro 8. So what I want to find out from you folks is, have you actually spent a little bit of time in the short time that it's been out? Have you actually done any songwriting? And if you have, I want to know kind of what you've been finding out from your songwriting experience in Studio Pro 8. I have been writing. I've written a piece of music for my dad's funeral. unsurprisingly, um, so and it was all done entirely in Studio Pro 8. And you know what? It's just as easy writing in Studio Pro 8 as it is in version 7 and previous versions. Everything's there exactly where it always has been. But I gotta say, it's actually, I'm finding personally that I'm getting things done faster in Studio Pro 8 than I was before. I'm finding that I can move through the program much faster than I could before. And especially when we get into mixing and we get into the whole thing of single click for opening the plugin GUIs. I have wanted that for so many years. You have no idea how long I have wanted that for, and I'm glad we now have it. It's great. I love it. I know that, you know, it's maybe caused a bit of a divided opinion. Some people are wanting to go back to the double click, and some people are yay for the single click. I'm personally yay for the single click. I think it's great. So drop in the comments what you think of the new kind of single click to open plugin GUIs. I know it's kind of more like a Sunday show thing, but yeah, why not just, you know, chuck that into the mix as well. So what I want to hear from you tonight is your songwriting experience and that kind of thing. Have you used the chord assistant yet? Have you tried it out? Have you checked it out? I've kind of checked it out a little bit, not nearly as much as I wanted to because of all the aforementioned stuff I've talked about. So didn't really get as much time to play with the chord assistant than I would like. Edgar says the overviews. Yes, the channel and arranger overviews. Now, if you're wondering, what the heck? Where did that channel overview idea come from? Comes from actually the Fender Studio Pro's little brother, who ironically was first. So how is it little brother? But you know, you get what I'm talking about. It's the little brother, and it's just called Fender Studio. It doesn't have the Pro bit, which is a free application. You can actually have it on your PC and your Mac. You can have it on your iPad, your iPhone, your Android phone. You can have it on all of those devices. Now, that had this channel overview thing in it already, and it's actually really, really useful. When I first saw it, I have to admit I wasn't sure about it. I wasn't sure whether this was it's just like, well, it just like sits right on top of the mixer view. Bit kind of, you know, bit big, takes up all of that space. But you know what? The more I've used it, and the more I've kind of tried actually doing some plugin adjustments in that channel view, it's actually pretty good. Now, I'm not used to it yet still, so I kind of forget to try it, but this is the good thing about it. And one of the best things I like about the channel overview is that it is optional. You don't have to use it. For me, that's one of the best parts of it. Because we didn't just say, right, this is the new way that you use the mixer. So glad we didn't do that we made it an option so you can toggle that button off and you can just use the mixer like you normally do. So for me, there's lots of little things like that, little things all over the program that I think, hey, actually, this is really, really good. The arranger overview I really like as well, especially if you're zoomed in. Like if you like to zoom in on a specific event, but then you want to scoot over to a different part of your arrangement. The arranger overview at the top, it has a little magnifier and you can just move that around to where you want, and everything underneath in the main arranger view moves. It's really, really useful. So if you want to jump to a section towards the end, you can jump to that section towards the end really, really easily. You're not having to like mouse, you know, do the mouse wheel thing to get it to scroll all the way across, or, you know, zoom all the way back out so that you can find where you want to go and then zoom back in, which is what you had to do before. You had to zoom out, go to where you want to go, zoom in. Not so anymore with that arranger overview. The arranger overview is great because you can maintain your zoom state that you like, and you might like to be more zoomed in than most people. And you can just use that thing to that magnifier to just slide you around wherever you want to go in your arrangement. It's genius. It is absolute fucking genius. What a brilliant, 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 brilliant idea. And I have to admit, I probably didn't do it justice in my video, to be fair. And maybe I should do a bit more of a video on just how useful that thing is. Because I don't think that's in my list of unedited videos. I don't think it is. I'll check. I'll have to open the folder and check to see whether I'd done that. I can't remember. But if it's not, I will shoot a quick 1 minute 30-second video on it. Because it's great. Let's see. Who's been playing with Tonalic? I saw that a second ago. Billy, he says, I used it messing with Tonalic. Tonalic is really, really good. If you can afford it, if you got a budget for it, and you are the kind of person that actually does a decent amount of songwriting or arranging, I highly recommend subscribing to Tonalic. I don't normally recommend subscriptions, to be honest. It's not that I don't like subscriptions. I actually like the subscription model we have, Studio Pro Plus. I think it's great. And here we are 6 years later and it's still going and it's still growing. It's I think it's really, really good. But subscriptions, generally speaking, I'm not a massive fan of. I have subscriptions when it's a product that I think I'm going to enjoy for a long period of time. Sure, I'll subscribe to it. If I think I'm going to get lots of long-term value, I'll subscribe to it. It's like, National Geographic magazine. For a long time, I was just I actually get a lot out of that because there's a lot of stuff to learn about the world with the National Geographic magazine. For a long time, for about 7 or 8 years, I was a monthly subscriber. And then I kind of reached a point where I was plateauing with that. And I was finding that I just wasn't really, the magazines were coming in. I wasn't really reading them particularly. So I ended up ending that subscription. And I've done that with a couple of other subscriptions as well. But there are some that I'm just I'm going to get lots of long-term enjoyment out of this. And my kids are going to get lots of long-term enjoyment out of this. And so for one of those, that's Netflix and that's Disney Plus. And the kids do get an awful lot of enjoyment out of that. And me and my wife, Kate, we get a lot of enjoyment out of watching films that we either haven't seen for ages or watching new films as soon as they're available. For us, that's really great. We enjoy. So those are kind of subscriptions that I think are a real benefit. So I'm going to put Tonalic in that kind of category of a subscription that I think will really benefit you if you are a songwriter, if you are an arranger. I think even if you're an arranger, this is going to benefit you because what Tonalic does, if you subscribe, it gives you basically a rhythm section of extremely high caliber session musicians. It's not just a bunch of samples that you just drag and drop and you're kind of limited to what the sample is, actually is. This is so much more than that. And it works via ARA, just like Melodyne does. So it does things in a kind of Melodyne-y kind of way, which I think is incredibly powerful, whereby you can have the musician follow the chord track. So it is going to follow your chord changes. And you think, yeah, but if you have just ordinary audio, it follows the chord track if you tell it to. Well, yeah, it kind of does. But here's the thing with Tonalics. It doesn't just follow the chord track. It interacts with the chord track on a very deep level. So, for example, if you've got a guitar player and you've got him playing in a particular style for your particular track, and you have him following the chord track, you can not only, if you subscribe, you can not only change the voicings that guitar player is using in the sample, but you can create little variations and little fills and things like that go with the rhythm guitar part that you've got. So you can tell him, hey, I don't like the way you're voicing that A-7 chord. I want you to voice it this way. And it does. It does. So it's not just you're playing with samples, you're playing with the internal workings of samples. And there's no you don't have to worry about crossovers or boundaries anymore because of the way Tonalic works. It's amazing. It's not just samples, it's not just MIDI, it's something totally other. I mean, man, when I first started hearing about Tonalic was probably maybe a few months ago. When I first heard the concept, I thought, this is great. What a fantastic idea. But now that I'm seeing the finished result, man, it's breathtaking. It's actually so much better than I thought it was going to be. So if you do Tonalic Harmony Wizard together with the chord track all at the same time, then you've got a powerhouse for songwriting. David Anthony says, yeah, but Tonalic Essentials is next to useless. It's not really. Yes, it's quite limited, but here's the thing. If you're not a guitar player like I'm not, yes, I have a guitar. Can I play it? Not really. I can't play a regular G major chord. If I'm going to play, it's going to be a G with a whole bunch of other dissonant kind of chord tones added to it, because I can't. That's just how I think about guitar. Can I strum with a plectrum? No. If I try strumming with a plectrum, it goes pching across the room. I have plectrums dotted all over the place in this studio. I must have bought boxes of plectrums just trying to get myself to strum, and it doesn't work. The plectrum just goes everywhere. I have lost probably about 50 plectrums in here. So when I actually decide to have a bit of a clean out and tidy up in here, which I should, because, you only see this view. If you could see that view, you'd be horrified. It does need a darn good clean and tidy up. And so if I did that, I'll probably hoover up a vacuum up, I don't know, 30 or 40 plectrums. So the Tonalic Essential is actually pretty good because it gives you a guitar player. If you're not a guitar player, it's really, really useful. And it does all the things that Tonalic does, just on a slightly more limited scale. But it gives you a flavor of what Tonalic can do. And I think it's been designed quite well, because it's been designed whereby it gives you a flavor of what the whole thing can do. And so it's a useful sales magnet to get you to subscribe to either, I think it's Studio and a Ranger or Studio, I think are the two tiers that they have for the subscription. And so I think it's useful. Edgar says exclusive price for 1 year of a Ranger is $49. Yes, and then after that year it goes up. So, maybe what you do is you get that exclusive 1 year to start with, and during that year you save enough money whereby you can purchase the next year from the money that you've saved. That might actually be quite a good way to fund it, and then you do the same again after that. Edgar again says, as an owner of the DAW, you can also exclusively get the first year the studio version for $150. There you go. Secret Squirrel says, how is Tonalic compared to RipX? RipX and Tonalic use entirely different technologies. Entirely different technologies. I mean, I've never used RipX at all. I've heard about it. I've seen some of the things it can do, and it's pretty powerful. But I think Tonalic does something at a completely different level. Kind of like what Melodyne does with your audio. It has access via ARA for a start. So it has access to the audio at, the internal workings of the audio, which is how you get to be able to change a guitar player's voicings and stuff like that. That's powerful. And it does that integrated inside of Studio Pro or Studio One 7.2.3. So if you're on Studio One 7.2.3, which is the final build of Studio One 7, you can use Tonalic. You can use it today. It will work. And it will work in exactly the same way as it does with Studio Pro 8. But, Studio Pro 8 is probably the future. And where that's going to be the main focus, I would think, of where development for Tonalic will go. So, why is it a subscription and not a perpetual license like Melodyne kind of is? So, the reason why the Tonalic thing is a subscription is because you're dealing with actual real session musicians who are recording in their unique way, and they're adding content all the time. And so these are session musicians that are not just going to get a one-off flat session fee. Trust me, I've done session work for sample packs before. And trust me, it's boring. If you are a session musician and you are hired to do samples for a sample pack, it is the most boring thing you can imagine. I mean, some people will actually really dig it, really get into it. But for me, it was just mind-numbingly boring because I had to do things at I had to do the same thing 20 times to get 20 different 20 different velocity levels. And then I had to do a different articulation 20 different times at 20 different levels, and so on and so forth, across a whole range of the instrument that I was doing the sample pack for. And it's incredibly boring and not very musical until maybe part of the sample pack is you get to record some loops, that was like the last thing we did. To be honest, personally, I think we should have started with recording the loops and then go on to the mind-numbingly boring captures. That would have been a better way round to do it, because if we'd started with the loops were great. They were really fun because I just got to play in different styles, different keys, different tempos, all of that kind of stuff, and those were fun to do. And then we should have done the captures for the samples on the back of that. We didn't. We did it the other way around. So it kind of meant that the samples, the loops didn't sound quite as exciting as they could have. So yeah, being a recording guy, a session musician for sample packs is mind-numbingly boring, and you don't get royalties. You don't get royalties. You get your session fee. And that's it. And so, if you've done a drum set sample pack, for example, unless you're a big name session musician like Al Foster or Matt Chamberlain or Antonio Sanchez, if you're one of those kind of guys, sure, you'll not only get your fee, but you'll get a cut as well. You'll get royalties as well because you're putting your name on that product. I wasn't. I was just an unnamed session player to create these sample packs. So I got my session fee, and that was all I got. And then I'm being used as a musician in countless thousands other songs, and I'm not making a penny or a cent out of them. So the Tonalic thing is a subscription because these musicians are going to be continually working on creating content for this product ongoing. So they are going to not just get one session fee for the whole thing. They will get repeat session fees for all of the sessions that they do to generate all of the Tonalics. So that's why it's a subscription, because these people get a cut of the subscription. So I think from that point of view, it's extremely well worth it, because you're employing session musicians to do what they do best, and you're employing them on an almost full-time basis. And I think that's great. So that's Tonalics. I think it's fantastic. What a great product. And yes, there are some other competitor products out there, but I don't think they come close. Now, I should give you the heads up that this show is not in any way, shape, or form endorsed by Ceremony. This channel is not endorsed by anybody at the moment, apart from this show and the Sunday Night Live show being endorsed by Alps Media. That's it. Those are the only endorsements I have. Alps Media, my good friend Louis Deturi, who is a fantastic guy, and he's a reseller. He sells Presonus and Fender stuff. So yes, so he helps make Sunday Night Live and Songwriting Simplified possible, and I am forever grateful to him for his support, for making this channel's growth possible. So we have crossed over into 6,000 subscribers over the course of all of the chaos of the last couple of weeks with the release of Studio Pro 8. And I'm very, 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 very excited and very happy to have gone past that, because I looked at it, it's taken us about 2 years to get from 5,000 to 6,000. I thought it was only going to take one, so it took a lot longer than I thought to get from 5,000 to 6,000. But we are past that, and we are only, I think, 7 away from 6,100. Which, of course, then means we're only 900 away from 7,000 subscribers. And to me, that's, I mean, yes, there are channels out there with, 20 million subscribers. I think there's even a YouTube channel that has 1 billion subscribers. There might even be a few now, because, YouTube's been around for so long. I'm confident there's probably a few channels that have 1 billion subscribers. And, that's, my channel is nothing compared to that. I don't care. I'm perfectly happy with you guys, my 6,000, almost 100 subscribers. You guys are great, and you're the best. And I thank you. I thank you very much for watching all of my videos, for your comments, both positive and negative, likes and dislikes. Thank you very much. I thank you for the engagement. The engagement is great, and the engagement helps. Whether you're making a negative comment, whether you're giving me the thumbs down, doesn't matter. It's all engagement, and it helps the channel grow. That's the good thing about it. People that give me the thumbs down on my videos, that's great. You've expressed your opinion, and I'm glad you have. But here's the thing, it's engagement, and it actually helps this show to grow, and this channel to grow. And as Kyle helpfully reminds me that today is show number 129 of Songwriting Simplified, since it has been on this channel. For about 3 or 4 years before I started doing it on this channel, this was a show that I co-hosted with Jonny Gibe, and he and I would talk about songwriting, and he'd pick my brains and I'd pick his brains, and sometimes we'd collapse into complete hysterics where we were laughing so hard we were crying. I seem to recall one show we did, we even improvised a song about toilet paper, and all of that. So we've come a long way. So yeah, thank you very much, everybody, for all of your engagement. I appreciate it a lot. David says, if they gave us a couple of different guitarists and some bass and drums would be good. Yeah, you get that with the subscriptions, actually. So yes, with the subscriptions to Tonalic, to both Arranger and Studio, you get some more musicians and you get some more instruments. And if you go for the big Studio one, then you get all the instruments and you get all of the editing capabilities as well. And you can go very, very deep into the editing of the tonalics and being able to do different harmonic variations and revoicings of chords and all of that stuff. Let's see. That's a good question though, David. Thank you. 30-day trial of Studio is $1. Now that's a bargain. The 30-day trial of Tonalic Studio is $1 buckaroo. And I think it's well worth checking out. So, David, go and grab the 30-day demo of Tonalic Studio for $1. And see what you think of it. Give it a try out. And, you know, you may well find that it's exactly right up your street. Let's see. What else do we have? Kyle says, played a bit with Tonalic. Don't quite know all the ins and outs yet. No, but you're probably a wee bit ahead of everybody else here. Because it is so brand new. I don't think a lot of people have really jumped on it yet. But Edgar is dropping some very, very useful tidbits here about the best pricing and what you get with what. That's great. Thank you, Edgar, for all of that. The VCR repairman is here. He says, yeah, they don't know who you are. If you're talking about my session work for sample packs, yeah, the people that are using those sample packs, in fact, I don't even know whether those sample packs still exist because I made those back in 2003. So they may not even exist anymore. But you're right. The end users will have had no idea that it was me. But it was. I did a whole bunch of Fender Rhodes samples and loops. And I did some drums as well. I did like a whole jazz drums package. Because at the time, there wasn't really a whole lot of sample packs for jazz, for jazz drums. And so I did with sticks and I did with brushes. And it was the brushes one that was a big seller. Really, really big seller, the brushes one. And then Loop Loft, when they came along, they did a whole bunch of samples with Matt Chamberlain. Matt Chamberlain is a wonderful drummer. He is an awesome session drummer. And they did a whole bunch with him, with brushes, with mallets and sticks as well. And some of the things that he did are among some of the most creative things that I've ever seen done or heard done in a sample library. They're great. I've used quite a few of those. But yeah, his touch with brushes is just chef's kiss. Totally. Way better than my pack that we did. But my pack was not done with Loop Loft because I'm not anywhere near as famous as Matt Chamberlain. Not anywhere near close. Anyways, so Godzilla Haiku, I like that as a channel name. Godzilla Haiku. That's like if haikus could stomp on large buildings, they would. I like that. What happens if you write a song using Tonalic and then stop your subscription later? Is the song still intact and playable in its original form? I would think, going by how subscriptions work, just broadly how subscriptions work, that any content that you use in the subscription, when your subscription expires, you no longer have access to it. I would think that would be how it works, fundamentally. So what I would strongly suggest is if you know that you are going to cancel your subscription to Tonalic, I would strongly recommend that what you do is you freeze your tracks. And I don't mean just freeze them to, I mean like properly bounce them, render them so that the Tonalic aspect of it is unloaded. And then what you're left with is you're left with the audio print of what the tonalic part was. Obviously, that means you can't change it, which is fine if you are a practitioner of what I do and what I've done for the last 35 years, which is commit to a sound at the earliest point possible. I mean, the reason why I started doing that is because, 35 years ago, I mean, there weren't really any computers with DAWs particularly, but as computers started coming in and started to be used for DAWs like the very first version of Cubase and things like that, they weren't very powerful. So anything you did, you kind of had to commit to at the earliest point possible. And I decided that's what I would do because it would save processing and it would free up all the computer's resources for doing other things. And I've just kept on doing that. Computers are ludicrously powerful now, but still, even with computers being ludicrously powerful like they are, I still print everything. So by the time I am done with the songwriting, I'm done with the arranging, I'm done with the production, I've done all of that, I print everything. So that before I start my mix, I've just got raw audio. And that's what I work with. So everything is printed. And Frozen, which is the new language of Studio Pro, I freeze everything. And that way I have made it permanent. And then it means that when I'm mixing, I am no longer thinking about the music side of it. I'm not really thinking about the arrangement. I'm not really thinking about things I want to change musically. Yeah, I'm thinking about the arrangement because I'm thinking about automation and making sure that the melody part is always, or the vocal is always up front. And that means I'm doing trade-offs and I'm balancing with automation. Freeze used to be called transform to audio or render to audio. That's right. That is correct. So yes, render or freeze or print, whichever terminology you use. I use print because I come from the tape era, where that's exactly what you did. You printed it. Which is actually a cinematic terminology. That's what they do in when they're filmmaking. If they have finished the scene and they know that the cut that they have the cut of the scene that they have just done is perfect and it's what they want and they're not going to change it, the director will say cut and print. And that means that is now fixed. It's preserved. Which means you can't then go back and reshoot. So the whole concept of printing to tape has then come into the audio domain. We don't print to tape anymore indoors because there are no tape machines, but still the whole concept is the same. So for me, I still call it printing. Secret Squirrel says, gotta run, catch you soon. Hopefully they'll post meets on the Fender website soon for those of us who don't use social media and their trackers. Social media and their trackers. Right, okay. From what Gregor has told me, the Studio Pro meetups will resume in February. So we don't have a long way to wait. And I believe that they will be the same meetups as have been in existence for the last 5 years. They would just resume, but they will not be called Studio One meetups anymore. They will be called Studio Pro meetups. So there will be some new branding and some new stuff to do with that Gregor will post in the foreseeable future. We got 10 minutes left, folks, and we were up at like 20 people, 25 people, I think. And we're losing a few people, which is okay, because, some of you folks have got to run, and that's fine. Like, Kyle, for example, he says, peace and love to all. I have to run. We'll check for chats later. Cool. Kyle, thank you very much for all of your help. Being one of my moderators. I appreciate you a lot. Godzilla says, I met a guy who used to call it amber as in encase it in amber so it doesn't change a million years. Yeah, that's also a decent analogy. I quite like that one too. That's pretty good. I'll take that one as well. All right. Has anybody got any other questions about using Studio Pro 8 in a songwriting or arranging or composing context? One of the things we will start to cover on Songwriting Simplified is we will start to talk about Fender Notion. Now, I know not everybody here is a notation person, and you're not necessarily a notation person. You're not writing music with traditional notation and that kind of thing. However, what I am going to start to show is, even if you're not a music reader and you're not necessarily a notation writer, how you can use Studio Pro 8 and Fender Notion together to allow you to create notation parts for people that you want to play on your songs who are notation readers, and how you can make their lives a lot easier by giving them what they need rather than kind of making all the pitfalls and mistakes that people that don't understand notation will make. So my plan here over the course of the next several months is I'm going to gradually drip feed a little bit about notation and Fender Notion and the integration that it has with Studio Pro 8, so that even people that don't read music and don't write music notation can actually use Notion and the score editor in Studio Pro 8 to be able to prepare a chart for a trumpet player, a saxophone player, a trombonist, a guitarist, and any other session musicians that you're likely to work with, string players, clarinet players, flute players, whatever instruments you are wanting in your songs, in your productions, where you are going to need musicians who the way they will work is through music notation. And even if you don't, you can still serve them. You can still give them what they need to be able to make music and contribute. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to gradually get you folks who don't read into the world of reading. Because even if you're not a musician, even if you're a mix engineer, and this is something I've been teaching Kyle. I hate singling out Kyle, but this is something I've been teaching Kyle because Kyle has been doing some mixes for big bands recently. And I told him one of the best advantages you can have as a mix engineer, if you're working on something that's orchestral or a big band chart, is being able to read. Because if you're able to read the full score, you can follow where the melody is, and you can then develop automation plans for how you're going to do the automation to make sure that you are always following the melody and counter melodies, because counter melodies are as important as melodies, and you want to be able to bring those forward and then set them back when they need to be. Same for soloists and backing parts. Like you will often have a soloist who plays just with the rhythm section, and then maybe a few repeats later, the rest of the band will come in and they will be playing supporting riffs and figures behind the soloist. When that happens, you've got to maintain the balance, and you've got to keep the soloist up front and the other backing parts behind it without overwhelming the rhythm section or overwhelming the soloist and ending up with the soloist, what they're doing, getting lost. So mixing something like a big band chart is extremely complex. Mixing for an orchestra is even more extremely complex because there are more dense layers that you have to work with. But if you're a mix engineer and you can follow a chart, even if you aren't reading every single note, but you know how to identify where a melody is and in which part of the score that melody is, and where the counter melody is also, then you can follow that, and then you can develop, as I say, you can develop your automation plans. So you know when to bring something up with volume automation, or when you need to automate the reverb dryer and then make it wetter when you want it to set further back in the mix. Stuff like that. This is where music notation reading is actually really handy for mix engineers. It gives you an advantage, because if you don't have that notation background and you're just mixing by ear alone, it is a lot harder work and it will take you a lot longer to do it. But if you have that notation background, you have that a little bit of music theory background, then you will know much easier, much better how to make your mix come together. So, so that's why I'm going to start doing that. All right, because I think it would just make everybody's musical lives a lot easier. Besides which, it's another skill to acquire, and it's another bow, another string to your bow to have, you know, so that, you know, you never know when it'll come in handy. Hey, I can read a little bit of notation. I can play this melody for you if you like. Great, I'd love you to play this melody for me. Or, you know, whatever scenario it might be, it will always come in handy, even if you are just a mixing engineer. So those are kind of the things that we're going to do in 2026 with the Songwriting Simplified shows. So those are my plans, and we will see how those unfold, and we will see how you guys like and appreciate them. You know, if I'm doing something that you're not digging and it's not working for you, then all you got to do is just let me know. And if people are, if, you know, the general consensus is, hey, this is not really working, I'll stop doing it. It's fine. Don't have a big problem with that at all. H2K Ventures is here. Hello, good to see you. Welcome. Says, love how I can get this to tab my guitar parts, but instead of tabbing below the 12th fret, it moves a lot along, it moves it to another string. Are you talking about the score editor in Studio Pro 8? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Or are you talking about Fender Notion? Because there will definitely be a difference. But if you want to go into that in a little bit more detail, because, you know, we're right at the end of the show now, because this show is only 1 hour long. But if you're talking about the score editor or Fender Notion, then see the web address at the bottom of the screen there. Go to that web address, click on the contact form, and drop me an email and give me information. And, you know, tell me what the problem is. Provide some screenshots and also some steps to reproduce it so that I can, you know, try and make your issue happen. And then if I can, then that's something I can bring up with product managers and things like that, because I talk to them every week anyway. So, so those are the kind of things that I can talk about. SRW Experience says test. Okay. I'm not sure in which context that was meant, but that's okay. Maybe you were testing making a comment, and well, you know what? It worked. I saw your comment, so it is working for you, SRW. But we are out of time. The show is done for another Wednesday. I will see you folks all on Sunday for Sunday Night Live. I will let you know, like I say, we're taking it on a show by showcase basis. If I'm just too tired, we won't do it, but we will see. Okay. I'm amazed I have made it to the end of this show, to be honest. And we'll see how we go for Sunday. But if there's not going to be a show on Sunday, I will let you know in the community section of this channel. So make sure you are subscribed and you have all notifications selected, because if you have the all notification bell ticked, you will get a notification that I have made that community post, and then you can go read it. Okay? So please do be subscribed and help me get over the 6,100 milestone and on into the future towards 7,000 subscribers. You guys are the best. You guys are awesome. Again, a big thank you to Alps Media LLC, my friend Louis Deturi, for making these shows happen. So I will see you hopefully Sunday. Until then, good night, everybody.